You guys doing good? All right, talking some boxing, and we're going to talk about some upcoming fights that we know are going to happen. Your boys eating while we talk. Let's start with Canelo versus Bivol. I already told you guys I'm staying with it. I got Bivol for the win in that fight. And it has to do with your feet. It has to do with foot speed. It has to do with foot positioning. That's what Bivol's good at. Bebo asked for this fight. So, Canelo's not shown me yet that he can properly deal, handle, I said properly, with an effective mover. Now, to his credit, he was able to freeze plant and catch him with that right hook to the spleen quite a number of times, and then he caught him with a left hook. In the 10th round that Caleb Plant talked about, I said, yeah, that I was still thinking about that left hook. And when Caleb Plant make a mistake, and he got knocked down, and Caleb Plant didn't know what to do after that. I've been frozen. Maybe it's data. Okay, it's got a little difficulty with the internet, but we're gonna be fine. Okay, so yeah, Plant messed up. That's on him. You must know what to do when you get knocked down. And I'm guessing he knows how to do now. He was doing pretty well against Canelo. I had him up coming out of the 10th. Or even, something like that. He was doing very well. Okay. So, I do not know what game plan Canelo will have for Demetrius Andrade. I'm sorry, my bad. For Dimitri Bivol. They're both Dimitri. One's Demetrius, one's Dimitri. But he better get his foot speed up. And he better get his conditioning for his footwork up. Because you're not going to cut off the ring on Bebo just like that. His footwork is really good. And he's going to use his reach. And he's going to use his length. And he's strong. Not a big 175 pounder, so that kind of works in Canelo's favor. But he can box his ass off. Pardon my crassness. So, Canelo's going to have some problems. With Bebo. Now, Bebo is a mid-range fighter, like Canelo. So that kind of helps Canelo a little bit. I just don't see Canelo beating Bebo. He's going to have to impress me. He's going to have to show me he could beat Bebo. I just don't see it. I'm not trying to overhype Bebo or anything. I do like Bebo. I do like Canelo. But we've seen Canelo have problems with movers. Caleb Plant, Danny Jacobs, Yaris 90 Lara, Floyd Mayweather, Gennady Golovkin in spots in the second fight. Not really problems with Gennady though. But you use the stick on him, you keep him honest. And Bivol doesn't just lead with the stick, he leads with the right hand. He has power in both hands. Not a one-hitter quitter. He sets up the shots. Canelo's not a one-hitter quitter either, if you haven't noticed. He breaks you down. So, shout out to Scrapbook Boxing. What's up, my brother? What's good? So it's one of those fights where, that's quite a challenge Canelo's taking on there. Now here's the catcher. Maybe. They're talking about having this fight. But you know, Russia and Ukraine war is going on. Maybe Bebo doesn't fight for a title. Maybe Canelo doesn't fight for a title. Now the WBA is saying we're going to hold off, until May. And if nothing's going on in May, shout out to Scrapbook Boxing. He says, "What's for lunch?" I got lentils, rice, something called bhaji. It's kind of like spinach. I got something called shadow benny. It's something like what's shadow benny like? I don't know how to describe it. It's a seasoning. I eat healthy. I'm mostly vegan, even though I did eat some meat this morning and last night. I'm mostly a vegan guy. That's another reason why I'm so skinny. I was bigger and buffer, but I've lost a lot of weight. I went from 180. I was 180. What was I? 185. I went all the way down to 150. I think I'm 154 right now. Walk around 154. Crazy. I lost 31 pounds. Which is not bad. Yeah, I fight a that's my weight class, junior middleweight. So now I walk around 154. Never did this in my life. I mean, since I've been doing boxing, that is. I've never walked around at 154. Now I am, because I'm so active, and also the COVID that I got, and then on top of that, I eat sometimes once, twice a day, maybe 3 times a day, but I'm very, very active. Yeah. Gotta go outside again. We'll be on the move after this meal. So anyway, what can I say? Let me ask you, Scrapbook Boxing, what do you think? Do you think Canelo can beat Dimitri Bivol? And what do you see in Dimitri Bivol's game that would allow Canelo to beat Dimitri Bivol, if anything at all? I just think Canelo has too much problems with guys who can move, and they have pretty much quicker feet than he does. And you would say, well, he has to cut off the ring. Well, you can't cut off the ring if you're not in position. If these guys can get in position faster than you can get in position, and they can do it consistently, Caleb Plant was doing it. And he was using the shell. Canelo wasn't really landing much of anything. Um, Lara, again, another troublesome guy. He was moving quite a lot, excessively. You know, Danny Jacobs got good footwork. Strange as it sounds, he might have lost his last fight, and he did. But Danny Jacobs is a pretty good defensive fighter as well. Unfortunately for him, the kid who faced Callum Smith came on strong in the later half of the fight and took it, as far as I'm concerned. Jacobs should never have made that fight that long. And again, his decision was weird. Go southpaw? Really? But you're not. It's not working for you. Make an adjustment. Go back orthodox. Went back orthodox in the 12th. Did a lot better. But you know, he let the guy get the momentum. You're in the guy's territory and everything. You know, he made the fight close. It shouldn't have been close. But Danny Jacobs again. Good boxer. Gave Canelo problems. Came on strong in the second half of the fight. Yeah, he doesn't fight on the back foot enough. And, I mean, he did it against Gennady Golovkin, but again, Gennady Golovkin is not really a quick fighter. It's more timing. He's deceptively quick, but he's not, you know, it's timing. So Canelo was able to box him off the back foot. But you can't do that against a Jamal Charlo. See how explosive and quick his feet are. You can't do that against him. And he knows that. You know? Look what Caleb Plant did to him. And Caleb Plant was slowed down his game tremendously. He didn't pace himself too well, Caleb, but he did pretty good. And Caleb was, was boxing him. I mean, it was only when Canelo stiff-armed him, kind of clinched stiff-arm thing, and he landed the right to the spleen. He continuously did that throughout the fight. Caleb allowed him to do that. Caleb never made an adjustment to that, but for the most part, you know, Caleb Plant was, doing whatever he wanted to do. And that just doesn't work. I mean, if a guy's got better stamina on his feet, better foot speed, precise footwork will not work for everybody. Precise footwork works for those people who do not know how to decipher it, don't understand it. But for a counterpuncher like Caleb Plant, like Araceli Lara, like Danny Jacobs, Miga Cotto, these guys, they understand what precise footwork is. They understand the special effects. Canelo's not going to do. I mean, Callum Smith didn't understand it, okay? And then Callum Smith is already, he's a rangy fighter. He's not a guy that fight on the inside, really. His power come on the end of his punches. He had no idea what Canelo was doing. But you're not going to do precise footwork on a Floyd Mayweather, Araceli Lara, and they're not going to know what you're doing. Okay? So, and Bebo's one of those guys who will understand what Canelo's doing and be able to handle that very easily. It's just about establishing range. Once you establish range on the dude, and you hit him with the first right hand, and he realizes, I can't just walk through this dude, and he respects you, the fight's over. So, I don't know, man. I don't know how Canelo's going to beat Bebo. I don't see it. And Bebo's going to be the bigger guy. Arguably between Bivol and, you know what? I give Canelo a better chance against Artur Beterbiev of winning the fight than against Dimitri Bivol. Because Beterbiev is slow. He's fundamentally sound, but he's slow. Strong, but he's slow. Like Canelo and Beterbiev are in two different time zones. He's rough and rugged, but he's slow. You know what I mean? Mini Mill, Zika no Bots. Shout out to you, brother. Canelo can fight off the back foot and front foot. Let me just let y'all know. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm saying you should be working on your conditioning and moving your feet, and also how quickly you move your feet as well. Mini Mill, Zika no Bots says, I can see an upset with Canelo Bivol. Yeah, definitely. I can see it too. I'm not partial to anybody. I'm just saying. That's just Canelo better be working on his footwork, because that's not an easy fight. You know, Charlo's not an easy fight for Canelo. Again, footwork. Right? It's the footwork. I told them Caleb Plant wasn't going to be an easy fight either. People thought Canelo was going to get Caleb Plant out of there early. That wasn't going to ever happen. You know? Let's talk about Shakur Stevenson versus Mini Mill. Zanabot says, I don't like Canelo at 175. This Bivol is a very hard fight for him. That's the hardest fight at 175. Canelo is a crazy dude, man. He's taking on the toughest challenges. Okay? Callum Smith wasn't... I told y'all Callum Smith and David Benavidez at the time were the weakest links in 168. But Callum Smith was the lineal champion of 168. He was the guy. Canelo went straight at him and beat him. Okay? Then, he took on Billy Joe Saunders, who I thought was the second best 168 pounder. And Billy Joe Saunders let me down. He kind of cowered out, and he didn't want to. And then he took on Caleb Plant. Alright? Those were all the belt holders. I would have liked to see him take on David Benavidez, because David Benavidez was a belt holder at 168. I think that's a good fight. Mini Mill says, I wanted the PBC route, not the DAZN route. I hear you, brother. It would have been nice to see Canelo versus Charlo. That would have been a big fight. Canelo versus Bivol is a big fight, but not as big as Charlo. Charlo's a bigger name. Charlo also faced better competition than Bivol did. Mostly at 154, but nonetheless, at 160, he's not bad. He has faced some he faced Derevchenko, who arguably beat Triple G. It was a close fight, but he did beat him up. And then he also faced Matt Korobov. Them is two serious names at 160. 160 he faced, and then 154 he faced J. Rock Williams, who became a unified champion, and he also faced Cornelius Bunrich, who's the oldest 154-pound champion, right? So he did face names. He also Vanis wrote Matarosian. He faced Austin Trout, you know. So he has faced some names in boxing, guys who we know in boxing. Jamal Charlo. So, you know, that's why Canelo never disrespect Charlo, if you ever notice. He'll say, you know, he never say who Charlo beat, because Charlo beat some names. You must say that to Demetrius Andrade. Hell of a fighter, though, Demetrius Andrade. I think that's the guy that could beat Canelo as well. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think David Benavidez beats Canelo right now. Maybe later on, but not right now. But if Canelo plays his cards right, David Benavidez will make a name for himself by the time Canelo does face David Benavidez. You know, make a big fight. Benavidez versus Andrade, that's a good fight. Andrade's taking on some guy named Parker for the 168 WBO 168 eliminator. And then David Benavidez, he's taking on David Lemieux for the, I believe that's the 168 WBC title eliminator. So all roads lead to Canelo or a belt if Canelo doesn't face them. Canelo may go up to 175 and try and unify there. We'll see. There's Joe Smith Jr. there. I don't know if Arthur Benavidez will be there or not. As champion. We don't even know if Bebo will be there as champion. But if just him taking on Bebo, that's tremendous, man. I gotta give him props for that. That's the toughest fight for him out there. I made it look that way because not a lot of people know Bebo. They don't know his style. They don't know what he can do. I believe you me, Bebo hasn't shown you everything. So that's a tough challenge. That's kind of I wish him the best. My prediction stands. I got Dimitri. If they ever do fight, I got Bebo beating them. Canelo's counting on trying to get to Bebo's body on the inside. I'm breaking him down. Good luck on that, Canelo. You gotta get your foot speed up, your cardio up, and you gotta get your conditioning up to handle that. Precise footwork will not work in this case. But I wish him nothing but the best. Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez. I mean, some people are looking at it like this. Shakur doesn't really knock out people. So, he probably give Valdez a boxing lesson. And Valdez didn't look good in his last two fights. Or his last fight. Was it his last fight? I can't remember. I'll say this. Valdez's last fight, that's old news. Valdez, Eddie Reynoso, got to come up with a game plan to beat Shakur. Valdez is talking about boxing Shakur. That's not going to work. You got to bang with this dude. And you have to have attrition. You have to be able to take a punch. There are times you will have to bang. No doubt about it. There are times you'll have to box him. But I don't know how much of his pedigree he has. I know he was an Olympian. That's why I'll say to Oscar Valdez. I'm picking Shakur to win, by the way. Possibly stop Valdez if Valdez is reckless. He's going to take a lot of punishment. I know Oscar Valdez is a tough dude mentally and so on, but you got to be ready to take a lot of punishment to try to get a W. You got to be willing to die in there, Oscar Valdez, to get the W. No shortcuts. No days off. Boxing all day. Valdez got to prep himself to go through hell to get what he wants. He has to get to Shakur. And he has to touch Shakur. To the body and to the head. What people don't understand is Shakur is very, very tough. Shakur may look very refined when he's boxing. But don't let that trip you up. He's very tough. He spars Terrence Crawford. Okay? I heard he was sparring Ugas too. Shakur is not your run-of-the-mill kind of fighter. Okay? Just like how Floyd wasn't your run-of-the-mill kind of fighter. Okay? Valdez knows this. All right. Oscar Valdez is more of a brawler. He likes to bang. Box. And you saw him against the WBC former world champion. You saw him boxing a bit. Then the guy come to him and then counterpunch him. Right? That's how he actually stopped him. But the other guy had tremendous gaps in his defense. Shakur. Shakur was mentored by Andre Ward. And gets tips from Floyd Mayweather. Shakur don't. Of course, every boxer makes mistakes, but he don't make those major mistakes you can capitalize on and get your money punches in. You're not going. Shakur, you don't touch Shakur like that. But even so, if you do touch Shakur, it's not going to do him nothing. He's not going nowhere because Shakur, again, I always talk about 800-pound gorillas. You know why I talk about 800-pound gorillas? For you guys to understand what I mean, I used to refer to Floyd Mayweather as an 800-pound gorilla. Well, you can use that same that demonstration to Shakur. Floyd Mayweather got hit with one of the most picture-perfect counter right hands by Marcus Maidana, right? He was actually pull countering while Marcus beat. So he pull countered into a right hand coming from below upwards. That's the worst kind of shot to get hit with. It was short, it was to the point, and was on the button. And you saw that brother stiffen up because it did mess up his nervous system for a split second. Okay? And then he hobbled back to his corner, sat down, and that was that. Came back out the next round as if nothing happened to him. Okay? That's called an 800-pound gorilla. Okay? The mindset of these dudes is on another plane. When they say you have to kill me to beat me, they mean it. Okay? And they you know why they know that? Because they take serious punishment in sparring. They go through all kinds of stuff, not just in sparring, but just what they carry their bodies through mentally. Most elite fighters cannot carry themselves through. You understand? The preparation these dudes do, the other elite fighters are not doing that kind of preparation. And they're not that dedicated to the sport like these dudes are. Shakur is an 800-pound gorilla. Floyd was an 800-pound gorilla. He's a small guy. Floyd was smaller than most of the guys that he was facing. Right? And he's going toe-to-toe with them sometimes. He's fighting them. Taking shots from them and so on. Because his mentality was one that was just way beyond those guys. Physically, and this is what I try to explain to people in boxing, but they just don't understand. Boxing is not just a physical sport, y'all. It's a mental sport. In fact, it's 90% mental. The Puerto Rican boxer who got paralyzed in the ring, I forgot what his name is right now. Many years have passed, but bit by bit, little by little, he is actually improving. It's very small increments, but he's improving. I forgot what his name is. He's from Puerto Rico. Donna Stevenson was never supposed to walk or talk ever again. He was in a coma. He was supposed to die. And this ninja is walking around talking to people to this day. That came from boxing. It's a mentality. Boxing is mostly about the mentality. It's a mental thing. Where the average person would have died, been in a coma, given up. A boxer doesn't think like that. Oscar Valdez is going into a fight with Shakur Stevenson. He cannot afford to think that he would lose to Shakur. It's a totally different mindset. It's like fighting cancer or fighting what seems like an impossible odds. That's the mentality of a boxer, and they push themselves beyond their body's capabilities. Okay? The elite ones, the really top guys. There's no such thing as fatigue. You hear Floyd say, "Man, I'm fresh, man." He's tired as crazy, but he will not He would not relent to his body. He would not drink water. He would go for 40-minute rounds. You understand what I'm saying? Now, Oscar fought with a broken jaw. That's cool. That's cool. But there are a lot of fighters that fought with broken jaws. Muhammad Ali fought with a broken jaw against Ken Norton. Broke his jaw in the second round. Now, do understand, that's again a mentality. You're not focused on your body. You're focused on the end point. Your mind is completely in control of your body. Now, that's great that he was able to. I mean, there's a lot of guys that fought with broken jaws, okay? Not to disrespect that, because you and I, if I got my jaw broke, I wasn't fighting no more. Right? But what I'm trying to say to you guys is, I know a bunch of them. There's Ricky Burns, got a broken jaw and fought through it. There's Manny Pacquiao, actually, who Adrian Broner fractured his jaw. He fought all the way and won the fight in the 12th round. I mean, there's a lot of guys who broke their jaws in fights, and they just fought on. There's guys who their eyes were about to drop out of their head, because of the cut over their eye and stuff. The eyelid was about to fall off and stuff like that. And they fought to the end. I mean, Tyson Fury just recently, he fought for Otto Wallen, wasn't it? And he fought bleeding all over the place. And he fought to the. It's a mentality, okay? So Oscar Valdez has that mentality, right? He has that mentality. We know that because he's more of a brawler. He more wants to bring action than he wants to box. Now he's saying the fight with Shakur is going to be a boxing match, but Oscar Valdez needs to feed into his brawling nature. That's what got him to where he's at. He's got to brawl. He's got to bring pressure. Got to bring heat. But he has to do it in a systematic way. He has to do it in an organized way. He has to be the aggressor against Shakur, even though I heard that Shakur is actually bigger than him, which is strange for me, but I guess he is. Shakur is fleshed out a lot more, put on a lot more muscle and stuff, so he's a lot stronger too. It's growing into his man strength, so that's going to be some crazy stuff when Shakur gets his man strength. Shakur is more strategic than Floyd Mayweather was when he was Pretty Boy Floyd. Floyd Mayweather took much more risk. Not to say they were all calculated risk, but he took much more risk. Floyd Mayweather was knocking people out left, right, and center, okay, when he started off. And he started off as super featherweight. Floyd was bigger than Shakur. But Shakur is so much more disciplined, sharp, economical with his punches. Pretty Boy Floyd wasn't necessarily the most economical fighter. It's Money Mayweather was much more economical, much more mature. If you put up Pretty Boy Floyd against Money Mayweather, I got Money Mayweather all day beating Pretty Boy Floyd, schooling his ass, okay? But Pretty Boy Floyd, where Money Mayweather would see the openings and see where he could really tag up a dude, he wouldn't do it because his hands. Whereas Pretty Boy Floyd, he didn't have that restriction at all. So he would tag your ass up. If he got to get you out of there, you don't belong in the ring with him, he was getting you out of there, right? So the point I'm making is Shakur is much more mature than Pretty Boy Floyd. So while Pretty Boy Floyd knocked out more people than Shakur did at that point in his life. In fact, he knocked out Diego Corrales, I think, at Shakur's age. Shakur is much more sharp, systematic, methodical, calculated than Pretty Boy Floyd was. Okay, Pretty Boy Floyd was trying to make a statement. He was trying to say, I'm the best, I dominate. And he would, he would bring the heat, he would bring the action. Shakur is much more calculated. If I don't need to engage with you, I'm going to do the most economical thing. If you guys ever watch Joe Louis, you can watch any footage of Joe Louis, he's a very economical fighter. Joe had, for his time, very good defense. You know what I mean? For this time, no. He would get knocked out pretty quickly. But for his time, very good defense. The guys who he faced, were much more wilder, much more scrappy in how they put together their punches and stuff. Even Billy Conn, who was fantastic, has a fantastic resume and stuff. He was still scrappy. But anyway, the point is that economical with your punches, meaning every punch that I throw has an intention behind it, a purpose behind it. That was Money Mayweather, okay, because of his hands. Shakur's taking that to another level, where he's very, very sharp, He's still got a lot to learn. Okay, he's still got a lot to learn, but he's very, very sharp. Okay, and what I mean by that is, okay, I don't know if you guys saw the clip with Andre Ward doing a quick little spar with Shakur, and now Andre schooled Shakur. He schooled him, easy, easy. He just schooled him. It wasn't a spar with gloves. They didn't have on the gloves. It just open-handed. So he was just touching Shakur. He was showing him how I could touch you with the jab, and he occupied him, and then he touched him. He feinted him like he was going to do one thing, and then he came back with something else. It's just Andre was just controlling the lead hand of Shakur, and Andre's a orthodox fighter, and just the experience. And Shakur didn't even know what was going on, and Andre was like, "No, bro, no." The mastery of using the lead hand on display by Andre Ward. I mean, but how he'd feint him and then he would come in with a body punch. How he body punched him. It was so sick what Andre was doing. How he just moved backwards and forwards and then, lateral move and then bounce back the other way. And it's beautiful stuff to watch. God. When I talk about some great boxers, everybody like to talk about Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, when it comes to light heavyweights and super middleweights and stuff, but Andre Ward took it to a whole other level, and a lot of people don't know that. It's how you control your opponent, which means how you keep their hands at home. And you can literally not throw a punch, but you're manipulating your opponent with your hands. Your hands are in a glove, and you can step around them, you can push them. We call it body checking. You can occupy their lead hand. You can use your forearm. Like I have to demonstrate for you guys to understand what I'm saying. It's so beautiful what they do, and how even Mayweather used to keep guys' hands at home. Y'all have no idea what this ninja used to do. There's so many tricks. There's so many tricks these guys use. I'm gonna show y'all one of them. I'm gonna at least show y'all one of them. Hold on a second. Man, boxing is such a, like I say, it's a nuanced sport. I'm gonna show y'all a couple tricks that these guys used to use, because y'all have no idea. Y'all have no idea how good these guys were. Oh man, y'all go back and watch the fights and you don't see what I'm talking about. And Shakur, he getting groomed to understand that, because it's a lot of nuance to boxing. Let me see here. So I'm gonna show y'all what a body check is. Y'all know it a little bit. Y'all seen it a little bit. Y'all seen guys body check other guys. Unfortunately, the camera angle is going to be messed up here, because I'm actually looking up at myself, so this is going to look stupid, and that's why I hate. Anyways, I'm an orthodox fighter, okay? You're looking up at me, which is stupid. Let me see if I can fix that. It's going to be weird. I'm going to try something here. So I'm on my knees here. Why can't trainers pick up on what you're talking about? They do. Especially former boxers would know what I'm talking about, and don't apply it to their boxing. I don't know. You see, it's a craft. Boxing's a craft, and there's a certain degree of craftiness to it. But I mean, boxers do use it to some degree. They do use it to some degree. Okay. All right. So let me show you what I mean by body check. So for instance, Mayweather versus Arturo Gatti, right? Mayweather, right, slipped off to the side of Arturo Gatti, so he's off to the side of him. Say this is Arturo Gatti right here, okay? This is body right here, okay? And he hit him a left hook to his solar plexus. Now, after he hit him the left hook, you know what he did? He took his hand and pushed back Gaddy's guard. So if this is Gaddy here, orthodox Gaddy, okay? Mayweather's off on this side of Gaddy. He's over here, okay? He just hit him a left hook up in here. So Gaddy moves, he bends down this way, right? Trying to protect himself. And then Mayweather takes his forearm and pushes Gaddy's hand away so he can hit him here, okay, with a right hook. That's called body checking, where you're not using your hand to punch, but you're using your hand to move your opponent's hand or their body or their neck or their head. Head control them, body check them, that kind of stuff. You have to be in position to do that. I'm going to give you another one. These are all little tricks. And there's plenty of them. Andrew Ward did it to Shakur. So Mayweather, when he's coming in with his opponent, right? He's coming in on his opponent. He'll sometimes dip, like he'll change levels down here, right? He's up down here. He dip in, or sometimes he's on the swivel and he's doing this and he's dipping in. But then he takes his forearm, he slides in, he takes his forearm, okay? And he holds your lead hand. He'll literally straddle your lead hand. You see Canelo do some of those little tricks too, right? He'll either push into it, or he'll slide in with his forearm like this to keep your lead hand right here. So you can't throw no lead hand. And guess what your lead hand is? It's your eyes. To find the target, you got to throw your lead hand to find out where it is, right? So if you don't have no lead hand, you can't throw nothing. And that's how you keep your hands at home. So it's called occupying. But he can do something extra. He comes in with the forearm and then he body checks you like this and pushes you off this way. So Floyd would get you out of position by maneuvering you out of position. Or he may lock you up. He's got you one hand in a clinch locking you up, and he's got his shoulder here and he's bumping you with the shoulder and he's moving you where he wants you to move to, and then he'll catch you with an uppercut or something. Okay? And these little tricks in the game of boxing, I mean, that's a whole other ball game. I saw Amir Khan do that to Louis Collazo. Move his hand out the way and then hit him with a body shot. So you can use your boxing hands not just to punch, but you can use it to move your opponent. Right? And you see guys swivel out the way, or sometimes they dip on a punch and then they push their opponent away. They push their opponent, or they bump their opponent with their shoulder, or they body check their opponent with their feet, or they body check their opponent with their body. They actually bump them. They bump their whole body against the opponent to move them back to get the shot, or they shoulder them and shoulder them off of them, push them off of them, and hit them the lead right hand. All these little tricks. You saw James Toney talk to Caleb Plant about that, and Caleb Plant actually implemented it against Canelo. So there's all these little tricks in boxing that they don't tell you about, which have to do with not necessarily punching. It has to do with how you get your body into position and how you get the other guy out of position. Because in boxing, it's all about being in position or not in position. Right? So, so you have to look for those things in fights. Like with Marcus Maidana versus Mayweather 1, Mayweather started to get positioning on Marcus Maidana because he was actually, in the clinch particularly, he was working Marcus Maidana's arm. You have to look to see who's really clinching up who. And even if Marcus Maidana initializes the clinch, who's keeping them in the clinch? And all these little tricks. So there's many, many tricks in boxing. Many nuanced tricks which have to do where exactly you position your body in space. One of the things that made Mayweather hard to hit on the inside was the way how he angled his body and he used his shoulder against you. So there's a lot of stuff I gotta say about that. But Shakur, he brings all that to the table. Well, some of it. He don't know all the extensive stuff yet. Ward's still schooling his tale. But there's a lot to it, you know what I'm saying? Here we go. James Toney versus Ward. I got Ward all day.
Ward beats James Toney. I like James Toney, but Andrew was a different caliber of fighter. That lead hand, man. Andrew Ward fought most of his career with one hand. One hand, the left hand. His rotator cuff in his right hand was screwed up. For most of his fights, he knows a lot of stuff about the lead hand. So yeah, so Shakur versus Oscar Valdez is going to be, for Oscar Valdez, that's going to be a fight of attrition. For Shakur, it's going to be an easier fight. So, I was actually looking through Jerome Ennis's resume, and it was something that forgot what the kid's name is. Something like the Golden Boy fighter. I forgot what his name is. Young guy, also on the rise. He goes woo a lot. I forgot what his name is. Copy after a wrestler. I forgot what his name is though. But he was talking about how he thinks that Errol's afraid to face Terrence Crawford. And I don't understand the logic behind it. I think Errol's not afraid to face Terrence. I think fans keep on exaggerating that. I think after Errol faces Ugas, I think he's going to take on Terrence Crawford. That's the fight that's going to happen. I was listening to Jamel Charlo, and he was talking about how Crawford need to chill and not call out his name, because Terrence Crawford said if he can't get Errol Spence, he's going to take on the winner of Charlo versus Castaño. Me personally, I think that Crawford can call out whoever he wants, once he follows up on it. But I think that definitely the Errol Spence fight is going to happen. Crawford versus Errol Spence should happen late this year or early next year. But I do think that Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence is just one fight away now. Errol has to get past the Dennis Ugas. A lot of people are saying Ugas can't punch and all kinds of stupid things. I heard one guy talking about Shakur sparring Ugas and Ugas was getting beat up or whatever. Listen, Ugas is a big welterweight, if y'all don't know. Ugas is not no run-of-the-mill kind of guy. Ugas actually beat Terrence Crawford in the amateurs. Okay? Y'all counting out Ugas because he got some losses. But he's a live dog in there. And they're going to do their homework, due diligence against Errol Spence. For sure. That's going to be a good fight. We'll see who comes out the winner. Do I favor Errol in this fight? I don't know. We have to see. I don't know how the eye injury affected him. They say he's sparring pretty good. He's still talking with a little slur. I don't know if that's a good thing. He's staying the course, man. He ain't want no tune-up fights or none of that. So, shout out to Errol Spence, man. We're gonna see what you really bring to the table and what's happening with you. If you healthy, you get past Ugas really good. It's a Crawford fight right there. That's a big fight. That's a big money fight. And Errol have 3 belts. Crawford gonna have 1. It's not gonna be a 50-50 split. Probably. But who cares? When Floyd Mayweather was going up against Oscar De La Hoya, De La Hoya called what weight class they was gonna fight in. He said what gloves they were going to wear, and he said what split they were going to get. Floyd said nothing. Floyd was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And he had to fight. Okay? With Crawford versus Spence, Spence is going to have the pay-per-view buys. Spence is going to have the majority of the belts. And Spence would have faced the majority of the big fights. He would have the big fights. So, Terrence Crawford should just agree to whatever he can agree to, once it's reasonable. and step in that ring. And if he's the next, in boxing, then he'll do what he got to do and get the W. And then that would be that. You know what I mean? Simple. I mean, him versus Errol's something that everybody want to see, so people will pay for that. And now it's about the time when that fight should happen. Because if Errol gets past Ugas, that's the next fight this year. You know what I mean? So we'll see. He got to get past Ugas, though. Crawford, I don't think Crawford's facing anybody before Errol. Maybe he would. I think he should. Whoever he finds, it should be a good opponent. I mean, he fought Sean Porter, so he's not going backwards now. Maybe Crawford versus Thurman. Whoever. You know what I mean? If Crawford gets past his next opponent, Errol gets past his next opponent, it's on, baby. It's on. All right? There's nobody else necessary. Um, hmm. All right. Right, so that's the upcoming fights. Tyson Fury versus Dillian White on the horizon as well. Dillian White's keeping quiet. He's not really making too much noise. He's kind of playing mind games with Tyson Fury, I guess. But ultimately, in the end, it don't really matter. What matters is when they match up that one guy wins. Right? I don't know what's going to happen with Usyk versus Joshua. We're going to have to wait. Lomachenko versus Kambosos. That don't look like that's going to happen. So we're talking about Haney versus Kambosos. Hopefully, that's what's next. Hopefully, I'm gonna catch you guys later on What You Need. Peace.